I'm happy to connect now. I mean, we have been talking about the general trends and the policy dimension in higher education and a country example based on Mitte's presentation. We have seen Austrian case went back to the critical dimension of research funding. I would say there's a kind of global trend there. I would definitely argue that this is the case in Germany as well. Colleague Münch works quite a lot on this, and I've been listening to this conference here yesterday to a presentation of a colleague from Chile, and she said our public universities there at present have a funding rate of state-based funding of 11%, and the rest is kind of market activity, acquiring funds, whatever they do in order to get their economical basis in order to be able to do higher education for the public good. I mean, still that's our intention, isn't it? To do something for the next generation. Now, what's going on with this presentation here? Within our symposium, that's the last step we take today regarding the economization, marketization of universities. Given the fact that there is only 10 or 11 or whatever percent may be the case in your countries, that there is a growing need to get funds, and of course recurrent education, academically recurrent education is becoming a source of income for universities as well, so we're going to look at this now in my presentation. So the system designer is, and I'm going to show within the field of open innovation, so it's clear that universities, if they want and have to sell knowledge, then it should be some practical knowledge, some method knowledge which can be done, which can be given to the market, which can be given to professionals, which can be given to society or economy or whatever. It's going to be applied in the developmental approach of university. So let's have a look at this, and it connects as well a little bit to the arts discourse here, because we are shifting into the functional mode of art in this design discourse. We're going to have a look at. How do I make this move? Oh, wonderful. Good. So very briefly, we're going to have 3 steps here. And I mean, we have been talking about already a little bit about complete conception of the creative university, and I mean, creativity in university has been a strong tradition anyway, so which kind of shifts do we have? And the question is, do we have now the given creativity shifted into product creativity with those recurrent education programs? We're going to have a look at the paradigm of open innovation. As I said, some functional knowledge, some process-oriented approaches of change, models and approaches which will be presented in 3 different programs we're going to look at, and they have different notions, different rationalities, and then so we get a glimpse already of the solution here, or well, not the solution, but the different rationalities, future market of the transcending self, 3 different programs we're going to have a look at and see different models of system designers within this dispositive of collective creation. And as you see already with the word dispositive, I'm coming from a Foucauldian perspective here, so I'm going to look at rationalities which are underlying those programs here. Yes, I'm not going to talk that much because we have been listening quite a bit already on economization. Interestingly, at the same time, we have a strong, massive trend towards bureaucratization, which is interesting about it, right? On the one hand, it's the liberal discourses of open market approach. At the same time, we have bureaucratization, and we are bureaucratizing, in fact, quite interestingly, which is interesting. Co-activity at the same time, and now we have a trend towards developmentalization, because university should become something useful. So it's really the big appellation to become useful. University create some useful knowledge for society now. I'm looking at universities, as I said, from a Foucauldian perspective, as knowledge-based, social, and as well conflictive, as epistemic terrains. So taking as well on innovation and innovation strategies, as well at this level of innovation programs, which are offered as recurrent education and market-based approaches here, as kind of a modus operandi of power knowledge. And I'm going to go from dispositive analysis here, so to see what's kind of the surfaces of discourse we can observe if we look at those academic programs. So, unfortunately, with lack of time, I can't go too deep into Foucauldian approach of dispositive analysis, and I hope that's quite familiar with you already. I'm very sure in philosophy of education, of course, this is given, right? So, question, I'm working with this, what happens with a market-based model we can observe here? Is there a shift towards a product-oriented pattern in those tertiary programs of recurrent education? So do we have kind of a shift from the natural given creativity for research and activity, whatever, into product? And can we see different patterns of open innovation and different rationalizations in new concepts of developmental university? And I would like to go there and analyze this a little bit further in order to see with Ron Barnett's argumentation to see we need conceptual reflexivity, we need reflexivity of the creative university in order to see what we are doing actually in our universities and to get this as a chance to renew ourselves as well, and not only following populations there. This regime we have been talking about already. So the methodological and methodical status of the paper I mentioned already very briefly. That's coming here from the discourse analytical perspective, that we look at the field of open innovation approaches and as well programs, and we want to do a material analysis within this dispositive of collective transformation. As you know, those open innovation approaches all have something in common. They have all in common, and I think it's very familiar to you, the educational thinking of participatory processes, network-based processes, system-based approaches to really bring the whole system into the room to make people participate and to develop future up from there. Right? So we go deeper into this. I'm not going to look very phrase by phrase now over a new paradigm of those concepts, methods like large group interventions, like as well the whole innovation discourse of present shifts into this system-based approach here. You can see at the right side. So generative practices as well aesthetical practices. Quite strong connection to the arts-based discourse. It's all aesthetical practices and aesthesis, the perceptions, reflection, creation, all those processes embedded here in those approaches of network and stakeholder-based open innovation processes, which we find strongly in the present innovation discourse, which is, of course, basis for programs which are developed at present in different universities. So we are going to look very briefly, and I'm not going to present each of those programs in detail. I mean, if you're interested to learn more in detail later, you can look at the home pages, or I can send you my paper, just very briefly to get an idea what it's like. It's a program Future Search, Future Research, the Free University of Berlin in Germany. Second, we look at the problem design thinking, which is given in the D school Stanford USA, and it's quite several imitation of this is the D school Potsdam in Germany as well. And the third one is the program Elias, Emerging Leaders Innovate Across Sectors. So that's the abbreviation of the MIT both in USA, and now they have brought it as well to the program Ideas in Indonesia. So that's 3 programs we can have a brief look at in order to see that there's similarities and something in common. We see this paradigm of systems innovation, but there is as well quite a bit of difference. We're going to look at the level of rationalities underlying those programs here, even if the methodology may be quite parallel, similar here. So, as I said, we're not going to deeply into those aspects, so don't worry if you can't read this. Anyway, it's in German, so it's not necessary to understand. This is actually the most, let's say, in detail in our program. It's a 4 semesters program. It's quite detailed, and it's a recurrent master program which is ongoing since winter 2010, and it's as I said, programs all have in common this approach of complexity innovation methods. So that's kind of, as I said, I'm not going to present the details of the modules and all of this stuff because we're really interested in the approaches here. And so that's quite strong to see that it's as well used to make some change in society happen with method-focused space, open space, future search, World Cafe, real-time strategic change. You all are familiar, I assume, with different approaches. Maybe you've been working with them yourself as well, Delphi techniques, scenario techniques. So it's all methods of future research and future search, which are shown, worked with here, and especially in order to link a cross-sectoral approach, profit, non-profit administration, really civil society thinking quite strongly connected here. So, see, this is the design you expect, right? Like sitting in groups and just doing something creative with images and aesthetics and creative art, and to bring about really the coherence you would like to see in the world, which is so difficult. And yes, they want to address decision makers, civil society actors, firms, scientific community, and so on. And I'm working with quite strong connected here with the social methodology, which is oriented towards democratization. So that's the underlying idea, is the agora, the Greek agora of the reflection of the debate, of bringing about desirable futures. So really the idea to let's imagine, let's envision desirable futures in order to create the path on its way. It's very strongly connected to Dewey's thinking, American pragmatism, right? That's what you find here. So the self-governing democratic community of responsibility, all those underlying notions you find here. Or the heliotropic community of hope, so it's really looking for solution approaches, and as well self-creation, remuneration, collective search, and knowledge creation. That's the focus of this program, which you find here. Just have a brief look at the second program. As I said, it's a D-School Stanford, and there in Stanford it's not actually a program as such, but an open curriculum element, let's say, for any student who would learn something about those methods. But in Germany, with the D-School Potsdam, it's much more curriculum-based, two-semester course which can be taken, which is as well offered, and as well to, of course, something which you pay for. And that's learned here, and what they want to create is to learn and ideation methods to identify user needs. So you see already at first sight that there seems to be different, that they want to go for rapid prototyping, that there is to want to test and iterate concept and to manage multidisciplinary networks. So at first sight, just hearing those few words, you can imagine that it's a completely different world being addressed here. And interestingly, those here, the School of Design, Hasso-Plattner Institute, by the way, it's very, very close to industry, the same as, of course, the D-School Stanford, very, very strongly connected to IDEO, which is one of the 10 biggest marketing firms of the world, and very, very close to economical markets. So we have this, we have debate on formation of big firms and whether they're very neutral or not. Well, we could continue debating this anyway. But they see, and that's I think quite interesting as well, challenging regarding epistemological aspects, and maybe as well the question of dominant or marginalized knowledge debate for the future, whether design approaches become problematically difficult, or maybe as well for educational knowledge, so we can keep this in mind maybe to reflect further on. So here Hasso-Plattner is the founder of SIP. You may know this big firm, SAP, which produces computer programs for administration, statistics and so on. So rich, very rich man, and we get a lot of money for this school here. And they say, so design thinking should be a generalized methodology and a general problem solver. So it's not only limited to creation of something in the market, but they say, we believe that great innovators and leaders need to be great design thinkers. So that's the need that the globalization, if you wish, of this generalized methodology. As I said, it's not only product creation, but in fact it mainly is, if you look at the programs, it's very strongly related to economical outcomes here. So we see the amount of informal settings of openness as a basic element, and you see the notion of the future of stuff that's kind of oriented towards a material complexity here, which is addressed, and then there is group work closely connected to industrial production and to product development in industrial settings. We see here very clear that it's a multidisciplinary approach, and there's the blue part here is industry, so it's quite clear that it's very strongly connected and linked towards solution of wicked problems in product development, and as well the innovation approach, the innovation approach not oriented towards desirable futures in an open sense of view is pragmatic, desirable futures, but the viability. So is it feasible technically? Does desirability means in this sense, is it marketable? Can you create a market for it? Will people buy it? And viability, so is it okay to make it go on? So is there legal frameworks which might restrict the production of products like this? So you see that there's kind of another focus given. So let's have a last shift here towards the last program, which is at MIT and now in Indonesia. And so here you see this is not Dr. Sharma, who is the founder of this program, but this is Joseph Beuys, the one who has said every human being is an artist, and to really raise this idea of being an artist for an approach which goes for transcendence of the self. So we know the debate of Bateson's approach of ecology of mind. So now we're not at the level of material complexity, we're not at the level of social complexity, we are at the level of complexity of the self. So that goes into consciousness concepts here. Strongly influenced by Buddhist concepts as well. They cooperate, by the way, quite intensely as well with Bhutan, with the global leadership approach there. They really want to influence leadership, so they want to go for a green economy approach by raising consciousness and economy. But maybe it's easier than raising consciousness in politics and all this, I don't know. Which is wonderful. As I said, it's not the what, it's not the how, it's not the process, but it's the source. Who speaks? And so we're using the image of the artist, the blank canvas. Before we start painting, who are we in the moment of starting to think of painting? And so that's all related to attentional orders and to, as I said, consciousness, the question of quality of attentional structures. So how do we create, it's very practice-oriented perspective, how do we create reality by our attentional structure, by our way of listening, by our intentions, by our way of sensing and producing the situation, and then there is the cycle, they say, we're acting from the higher self, so it's really kind of a normative approach here as well. We go for the better world approach, if you wish. And this mindfulness approach, which is given to say, suspending, we know this from the dialogical approach, is to say voice of judgment, voice of criticism, voice of fear. This is very, very hindering feelings within the creation of interdisciplinary or interprofessional cooperations based in networks, and this is of course the future. So if we want to cross-sector innovate, then we need to suspend, to redirect, and to let go. That's the approach he takes there with this program, which is very strongly connected to a new concept of university, and they want to have kind of an action university where learning is much more experience-based and much more towards ecosystem innovation as nowadays. And as you can see, it's not just method approaches, but it's a paradigm for ecosystem innovation. And of course, we're not going through all those aspects here, but as you can see, there's identify a lot of crises regarding climate, poverty, health, financial situation, education, civilization, whatever dimensions you can see here, and so we need new quality, capitalism 3.0, they say, the intentional ecosystem economy by working on the self. So coming to the end and having had a very brief look at those three programs, you can see that university in those programs of part education, by the way, of course, the MIT program was quite expensive, around $50,000 or so, and they hoped to get funding. I mean, MIT program, they have 80% overhead costs, so it's of course not that easy as programs and others. But anyway, they had a problem in getting the funds, especially from non-profit organizations or civil society, and of course private sector might have been willing to pay, and they have done some of those courses and programs, but now they shifted to Indonesia towards the developmental course because it's easier. But we see university epistemic terrain with those three programs, having the management future here with the open innovation, the more engineering approach. We can see in the design thinking, we have the desirable futures approach here with the future research program and imagination as rationality of governance. And we have this consciousness-based approach as seen, and the mindfulness approaches we have here as a transcendence of self and context. And so we can see those programs differ quite a lot, even working with similar elements and similar design, but the context, the disciplinary context differs. So as we have seen, Berlin as education and the design thinking as a cross-disciplinary, very close to economy, and the one at MIT is the management department and organizational learning, so that's okay, kind of interdisciplinary or transdisciplinary setting maybe, but still very close to economy, talking about consciousness. So, competing conceptions, you have seen that there is competing conception system designer as the Transprofession for the future. I mentioned already the question whether the design approach will be the dominant one in the future or not. So this is an open question maybe. And I'll leave you to debate whether dominance and marginalization of disciplinary knowledge is a relevant topic here. I think that might be an option for the developmental university to learn, even if it's products they create, but possibly there's a chance to learn as well from products. Thank you very much.